Hello and welcome to Pamphlet Global. Now, there has been an explosive news report from a website called Dropsite on what Imran Khan usually talk about, used to talk about the cipher or the diplomatic cables which were basically secret between Washington and Pakistan. Now, what has emerged out of them has been pretty shocking, but this is not something which is new because Pakistan's political instability has always been blamed on weak democracy and military coups. Their history has been all about the military coup and, what we can see is a very limited democracy that we have seen in Pakistan since 1947. But beneath that lies a deeper geopolitical reality for decades. Pakistan's military establishment has functioned as the main channel through which the United States and Saudi Arabia have exercised influence over the country time and again. Washington has always viewed Pakistan as a frontline strategic asset. It was first during the Afghan jihad against the Soviet Union in the 1970s all through the 80s. Then during the war on terror, which we saw under Musharraf's regime. Saudis, meanwhile, have seen Pakistan as a dependent Sunni nuclear power and a military shield for Gulf monarchies. But at the center of all this has always been the Pakistani army managing the arrangements, because the American military aid, the Saudi financial bailouts and the IMF leverage has become Pakistan's backbone of power structure. And in return, Pakistani journals repeatedly aligned the country's policies with the geopolitical interests of Washington and Riyadh. So this model has reached its peak now, and basically had reached its peak during General Zia-ul-Haq during the 1990s, if you remember the Afghan jihad. But also under Asim Munir, now Pakistan has moved from being a strategic player to becoming a dependent client state, and there is no doubt about it that the shift is quite visible now. The clearest example was the removal of former Prime Minister Imran Khan in 2022. Khan had increasingly irritated both Saudi Arabia and Washington when Khan landed on the day Russia basically invaded Ukraine. Khan was was in Moscow, though he was warned by the US State Department not to visit Russia, but they didn't pay any heed to them. Same way, Riyadh was very unhappy with his attempts to build very close ties with Turkey and Malaysia, and with Pakistan's criticism of the Organic of Islamic Cooperation, which is OIC, over Kashmir as well. The Saudis later immediately demanded the return of $2 billion in financial assistance they had been sending to Pakistan, sending a very clear signal to the Pakistani establishment. At that time, Imran Khan literally had to scramble to China, and China was the one who bailed them out, albeit temporarily, and they paid off that $2 billion loan to Saudi Arabia. Something very similar we have seen this time when UAE has asked for a $2 billion loan back, and Asim Munir and Shahbaz Sharif scrambled themselves to Saudi Arabia, and Saudis agreed to pay that loan. So this is something which keeps on going with the Pakistan's geopolitical you can say movements across the regions, and it is not a new phenomena what happened this time as well. So at the same time, Khan's Moscow visit alongside Russian Vladimir Putin on the day Russia invaded Ukraine, as I said, had really angered Washington. Then we saw a very very recent after that incident of his visiting Moscow, soon after that, there was a no confidence motion against Imran Khan that succeeded only after the military under then the General Qamar Javed Bajwa withdrew support for him. Once the army stepped back, Khan's government collapsed rapidly. He had no chance of staying in the power, and after his removal, miraculously relations with Washington improved, Saudi financial support again stabilized, and Pakistan quietly aligned again with the Western strategic expectations. Now with Asim Munir, this alignment has even become more direct because Imran Khan was jailed, PTI we know all was dismantled politically, media censorship intensified in Pakistan, and Pakistan's dependence on US-Saudi backing deepened further. Now the larger concern with the Pakistani military establishment no longer is that it acts merely as country's dominant institution, but increasingly as an enforcement mechanism it has made itself, through which any external power shapes Pakistan's political and strategic direction. So much so that now, the much touted CPEC, which Pakistan talked about with China and the Iron Brothers and the Iron Brother relationship, has literally collapsed, has literally fractured. The Chinese are not happy because Pakistan once again again has pivoted towards, the Western, you can say, powers, and the Chinese are feeling betrayed. So all, future, you can say, investments which were supposed to come into CPEC in Pakistan have stopped. China has been very aggressively, asking Pakistan to, return its dues, whether it's money which Pakistan owes to its electrical companies, or whether it is, the rollbacks which Pakistan keeps on requesting China, the economic rollbacks on the loans they pay. They basically owe the Chinese. The Chinese have really started playing hardball with the Pakistanis, and now where the things are going to go is something we have to see. Though Asim Munir last year, in August, said that we don't give one away for the other, meaning that the relationship between Pakistan and China is going to be pretty much the same what their relationship with America is. But the reality on the ground is the Chinese are completely irked with the Pakistanis, and Pakistanis' recent pivot towards Washington once again, and China has not taken this very well when it comes to Pakistan. So what new economic turbulence it's going to cost Pakistan, we will see in the coming times. The IMF has recently approved a loan of another $1.3 billion to Pakistan, but that is doing very, very little to keep the sinking Pakistani economy afloat. So that's basically what is happening in Pakistan, and I'll be back soon. Thank you.